Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. As you know, this is a place where we examine everything under the microscope of logic to ascertain what is most factual and logically consistent. So today, I'm principally going to be talking about two things. First, I'm going to be talking about how everything bad about Einstein, about Jeffrey Epstein, not Albert Einstein, Jeffrey Epstein, everything bad about Jeffrey Epstein happened under Trump, and how that seems to be so irrelevant in the conversation surrounding the whole Epstein case. And briefly, I'll be touching on Trump embarrassing his ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, in a meeting in the White House. But I'm going to be talking about, the promises that Trump made during his campaign as regards to the Epstein files, as regards to the JFK files. I also talk about um, what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. I'll talk about what happened to the files themselves now, and finally, I'll talk about Elon Musk's response to all of this. So, starting with the first thing I want to talk about, how one of the unique things about Donald Trump is his ability to be off the cuff, right? To have no filter. And in very rare moments, it leads to some rays of honesty where some things just shine through, some honest conversations just slip through, unlike a tactical politician who would sort of be more diplomatic in sharing certain sensitive information. Trump, because he has no filter and because he's basically a moron, will just say some things that are revealing. And this is what happened in this, I think, White House interaction where he was probably with his cabinet members. And he said something about his Israeli ambassador, Mike Huckabee. No, so let me just play that video and then I'll give my thoughts on it.
By the way, we have a man with us who thought this was going to be a very glamorous, easy job. He's the ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, former governor, former everything. I'd say he's a former everything, and respected and loved by everybody. And he loves Israel. He loves the state of Israel, and nobody loves it much more. And he's not Jewish, and he loves Israel. And he wanted to be there. I said, Mike, it could be dangerous. No, no, no. Well, at least I was right about that. He was in every bunker you could be in. He was running around from bunker to bunker, but he's still with us, fortunately, and he's done a great job.
Yeah. Out in this convention that Trump just gave or made, which was that the Iranian response to Israel's attack on Iran was did a lot of damage, and there were credible threats to Israel. There were credible security threats to Israel following the Iranian response. I mean, Mark Huckabee thought this was going to be a walk in the park. He thought it was going to be something like what happened with Hamas or what happens with the Houthis or with Hezbollah. He wanted to be there in Israel, playing, showing his bravado, his machismo. But then he was scoring from bunker to bunker. And this is in just 12 days of interaction. This is just 12 days of, both countries trading missiles. This was able to happen. Now, this runs counter to the standard Israeli narrative that Iran's damage to Israel was limited. What Trump just revealed is that that's not true. And, more evidence are beginning to come out that Iran did substantial damage to Israel. In fact, that's why they called for a ceasefire. That's why they accepted a ceasefire. It was a face-saving moment for the Israeli or the Zionist government, right? New reports show that 5 Israeli bases were, were successfully hit by Iran in that 12 days of war. Five. The oil refinery in Haifa was hit. The Israeli version of the US Pentagon was hit. The Weizmann Institute for Research was hit. So, and this was after both Israel, the United States, Britain, France, and all the Western powers, how they all combined to shoot down Iranian missiles. So, supposing it was just the Israelis themselves who were trying to take down these missiles, the damage would have been much more. And you can see that's why the Israelis, the only democracy in the Middle East, why they are censoring news, they are censoring anything that regards regarding the Iranian response to Israel. They're censoring all of that. They don't want the world to know. They don't want the world to see because it just shatters the myth of their invincibility. It shatters the myth that they can act in any manner of way that they like, unhinged. It shows that, you know, there is a country in the Middle East that has the ability to put Israel in its place, despite being supported by all the Western powers. This could still happen to them. And you can see that they've shifted their tone and their narrative for the reason for wanting to attack Iran. One, they've moved from it being just trying to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, which is silly. Iran is a country, they need to have a military. So if you're thinking that their ballistic missile capabilities, essentially their military is a threat to you, then you are a threat to them as well. You're essentially saying that their existence is a threat to you. Your existence is a threat to them as well. So it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, back to the conversation I want to talk about um, Donald Trump and Epstein, right? When Epstein apparently suicided himself, Trump was in office then, but nobody made any connection between Trump and Epstein, despite the fact that their relationship was very, very much in the open. Despite the fact that they were buddies, there it wasn't a secret. I mean, if there's anyone that you would likely that you point to likely be in that Epstein's list, it's got to be Trump. There are videos of them together. No, there are a lot of evidence. But it was very strange that during that period that Epstein apparently suicided himself in jail in very under very sketchy circumstances, while Trump was in power, while Trump was literally the president, while Trump was the one that could have made any of such things happen. There were no accusations on Trump. There was nothing. No one was trying to draw any correct connection between Trump and what had happened to Epstein. People were trying to blame the Democrats who were not in power at that time. They were trying to blame Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or the Democrat establishment while Trump was in power. But even if that were true, if this was done by the Democrats, it just shows how incompetent and impotent Trump is, that people who are not in power are able to carry out something like that under his nose, and he's not able to prevent it. He's not able to, so he doesn't have a grip of the institutions under his control. He's essentially a weak and a failed leader. That's the impression that it gives. But we know that's not true. We know that Trump effectively had control of, most of the government. So if there's anyone who was likely to have suicided him, it had to be either Trump or someone from his administration. And now the question why that would happen is obvious. Obviously, Epstein somehow compromises Trump as regards to his pedophile ring and all such things. He obviously compromises Trump. So that's why it is reasonable to assume, it is reasonable to posit that Trump had something to do with Epstein magically suiciding himself in jail. But that's just half of the story. The other half of the story is the list itself. Trump ran on something. One of them was he was going to release the Epstein files, he was going to release the JFK files. He essentially was promising a lot of meat, a lot of material to his audience, to his conspiracy brained audience or his supporters whose brains had been melted by conspiracy theories. There was no conceivable conspiracy theory from them positing that Jews control the media, the world, the banking system, to whatever. Just name them. These guys were always in that conspiracy theory mode. And Trump promised that he was going to give them meat. He was going to make this information available to them. And then he won, and everything was just crickets. Everything just went silent. Nothing. He wasn't going to reveal anything, despite promising that he was going to do that. So, was that a political ploy? Of course, it was a political ploy to get his base fired up to vote for him by promising to do something he was never going to do, by promising that he was going to release the Epstein files, knowing that he was never going to release them. And of course, the reason why he's not going to release them is obvious. There might be something there that is compromising for him. But that's not even the most shocking thing. It's not the fact that he's decided to censor this list. It's the fact that the Trump administration has now come out to say there is no list to begin with. There was no list to begin with. And this is reminiscent of the politics prevalent in Africa. This is just like the way African politicians, they say things that it's obviously stupid, it's obviously a lie, but they're just gonna say it anyway. They don't care because they don't respect the people. They don't think that people can do anything. They don't think that people have the right to be respected with the truth. They would say ridiculous things and get away with it. They think they can literally get away with anything. This is the same list that Pam Bondi says was on her desk, that she was reviewing it. Now, all of a sudden, she's out and she's like, oh, there's no list. Really? There's no list? Why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail again? For what reasons is she in jail? Why was she tried? If there was no client list, why did that happen? So it means that she's been unlawfully or unjustifiably held in prison or in jail. She was charged unlawfully, and this is a miscarriage of justice. Are they willing to admit that nothing happened, that this woman did not traffic minors, that there was nothing, no pedophilia happened? Then why did Epstein kill himself? Why did he suicide himself if there was nothing so damaging? Perhaps the people whose names were on that list, who Epstein had compromised so much, they perhaps gave him an ultimatum: take your life, or something worse than death was going to come to him. If at all Epstein killed himself, it had to be that. They had to have given him an ultimatum that you either kill yourself or something worse than death. I mean, what could be worse than death? I don't know. But that seems like a reasonable explanation for all of this thing. So they went from this list is the hot thing, or it's going to expose a lot of people, and now the list doesn't exist. Now, some people would say, well, if Trump was on that list, why didn't Biden release the list? Well, it's obvious. See, both political parties are corrupt. They're, like I said, politicians are like blood-sucking demons. So there is really no difference between both the Republicans and the Democrats politicians. They're all the same. It's all a show for them. Whatever they are putting out there before people, it's a show. They're the same thing. So it is very possible that a lot of Democrat politicians were also on that list. It's very unlikely that it's just Donald Trump or just someone from or just people from the Republican Party. My guess is that there are a lot of people from across the political spectrum, a lot of powerful people. So it's in their interest. If you see, none of the top Democrats they are not challenging this new narrative that there's no list. They're not challenging it. They are silent because this plays in their favor. They want this to happen. They don't want the list to go out because it's going to reveal something about them that they might not recover from. So it's a win-win situation. So Donald Trump is doing the dirty work for the establishment politicians, both the Democrats and the Republicans. He's doing that dirty work for them. He's not going to let them face justice. He's going to destroy the evidence if it's not already been destroyed. But we know, especially from the confessions of Elon Musk, that that the list exists, and that one of the reasons, or the reason why the list has not been revealed or has not been the reason that the list has not been shown or released is because Donald Trump is there. This famous tweet by Elon Musk says, time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Now, even though he walked this back and apologized that he went too far, he never said that he lied about this, right? He never said, oh, I was wrong, I lied about this. He just said I went too far. And it's understandable because they're friends, and he made this statement about Donald Trump. Now, even though it seemed like they had made up, But they're still falling out again, especially over the big beautiful bill. They fell out again, and Musk is it again with these takedowns of Donald Trump on Twitter, on X, with these memes. Now, this is another one that he posted in response to something Donald Trump posted. Is this is just a clown. This is showing the dressing of a clown, the evolution of a clown, and he's just saying that this charade about the Epstein list is it's just a clown show. And I agree with him. Weirdly, I agree with Elon Musk, right? It says the first one says we will release the Epstein list. This is when the clown is just putting on foundation. And the second one says we just need more time. The clown has is done with his foundation. He's putting on some makeup, and then the Epstein list is on my desk, referring to Pam Bondi. Here, it's almost done. The clown is very visibly shown to be a clown, putting on a clown hair. And then lastly, the unveiling of the clown. This is all a clown show. There is no Epstein list. And this just encapsulates the shit show that all this is, because you cannot claim that there was a list and all of a sudden there's no list. Who are you kidding? And Musk did not stop there. There was also this one. He said more squirrels and raccoons have been arrested than anyone on Epstein's client list. And it's true. It's true. No, why is Maxwell in jail for supplying a product to people, and none of those people who received said product have been arrested, have been charged, have been identified? Nothing. It's just still why was the list ever not released in the first place? Why were those people not arrested? Why were they not indicted? Why did they not have their day in court to prove their innocence? And so this is just spot on and accurate as well. And then this was another one from Elon Musk responding to someone. He said, "So then what is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison for? Stuff like this does not improve people's faith in government." And he is correct, especially given the fact that Donald Trump made certain promises during the election cycle that he was going to release the files. He was going to release the files, and this is what you're getting. It seems very obvious that Musk's statement that Trump is on that list is the reason why the list has not been released. it's not it's not wild to think in that manner, to posit this, to you know it's a very viable, workable theory. But we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this evolves, with time, to see if anything will come out. But what's even more surprising for me now is that the MAGA cult, many of them are silent. Many of them, they're not saying anything because it's a cult. They're always going to they'll move in the direction of their cult leader or do what the cult leader says, even if it is clearly a lie, even if he makes them look like a fool, even if he's breaking all his promises, even if he's shown himself to be unreliable, not to be trusted, right? They're going to keep following him. They're going to be by his side. They'll ride with him and die with him because the cultists who are looking for a daddy figure, like these people have like serious daddy issues. They look at Trump and they think that he's a strong man, and it's giving off the energy of people who were raised by their mothers. And many of these MAGA people who love Trump and Elon Musk are clearly what you would call betas in red pill circles, right? They're not alphas, they're not masculine men, right? They're men who want to be dominated by other men, by other strong men like Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, Netanyahu, Elon Musk. That's what they are. They are essentially bitches, right? And is what you get. Is what you get. Maybe one or two of them might have the enlightenment to call out something like this. I'm thinking maybe Candace Owens. This might be a true test of Candace Owens to a true test of whether she's genuine or not, how she responds to something like this. I mean, on the Israel thing, she's gone against Trump, she's gone against the Republican establishment, right? If she doesn't do that in this case, then the charge of anti-Semitism seems much more plausible for her, because if she's willing to go against her party, she's willing to go against MAGA and Trump in Israel, even though she's correct on it, and she's not willing to do that with something like this Epstein file, then it's my call into question what her true motivations are. So as things evolve, we're going to be looking, we're going to be seeing how things are shaping up to see how people like, Candace Owens respond to something like this. But I'm inclined to believe Elon Musk when he says that the reason the list has not been released is because Donald Trump obviously is in that list. And everything bad about Epstein has happened under Donald Trump. Him suiciding himself happened under Donald Trump. The list magically disappearing happened under Donald Trump. 2 plus 2 equals to 4. And Trump and Epstein have relationships that can be proven. So anyway, that's the show for today. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.